the News Channel 5 network, this is MorningLine with Nick Barris.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us on MorningLine. Nick Barris on a Tuesday. A good show on tap, as we always. I'm redundant because every show is good, but this is one we've been planning to do for a while. We've certainly done a lot of stories on this. I've talked about it on the program here as well. The question of the dangers, or lack of danger. I wouldn't say lack of danger, but the concerns right now around vaping, e-cigarettes. We've seen a lot of this now in the news. We've been reporting it in our newscasts about individuals suffering lung damage, the concerns with this. Some states now taking legislative steps to address what's available and to further regulate vaping, and how it compares with cigarettes. I mean, a lot of you out there maybe who are cigarette smokers, or you know people that are smoking and they're thinking of trying to get off cigarettes and go to vaping. Is it better for you? And then all of a sudden we hear about these youngsters who are now filing lawsuits against some of these companies saying that they've smoked for maybe a year and a half, they're age 18, and they have lungs of a 70-year-old, okay? Those types of concerns. There's a lot of information out there, maybe some misinformation, so we thought we would do a program getting to the heart of some of these issues on vaping and e-cigarettes. And we'll take your phone calls. The number's up on the screen, 737-7587, because I know many of you either are vaping, you smoke cigarettes, or you're just wondering about this on the marketplace. We'll talk about it this morning with a doctor from Vanderbilt. So we'll get it straight and get hopefully the accurate information from Dr. Hillary Tindle. Good morning to you, Doctor.
Good morning. Hello.
Nice to have you on.
Thank you.
Her expertise in the background, well, she is founding director of the Vanderbilt Center for Tobacco Addiction and Lifestyle.
That's right.
And so that, I think, makes you qualified to discuss this.
Thank you.
Vaping's been around now for a little bit of amount of time. When it first came out, and it came on your radar, your focus was on tobacco products. And we all know the history of that and where tobacco's going. It was tailing off. And I know when I saw vaping and e-cigs come around, I go, they came up with something else to get you. What did you think initially with vaping, and has your opinion of vaping evolved?
Well, initially, and we're talking back to about 2004, 2005, when e-cigs came on the market and really started to take off. I was not perhaps quite as excited as a lot of my colleagues, maybe a little more suspicious, but also hopeful that possibly they could be an alternative to tobacco smoke.
A way to help folks switch.
Correct. And that is the key reason that a lot of people use e-cigs, is to try and get off tobacco, burnt tobacco like cigarettes. But they're currently not proven to help with that, to help quit smoking, and they're not proven to be safe, which is a lot of what we'll be talking about today.
When you say proven, I mean, if someone, do you get a different effect? I mean, if I'm a cigarette smoker, which I'm not, but if I was, and I'm like, I don't want to smoke cigarettes anymore, I'm going to try e-cigs because I think they're safer for me. I'll just throw the cigarettes there. I grab the e-cig. There can be nicotine in the e-cigs, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay, that's easy enough to make the switch, isn't it?
It is, and a lot of people try it. Anytime we say, I see patients at Vanderbilt Medical Center with my colleagues, anytime somebody successfully stops using combustible tobacco, burnt tobacco like cigarettes, it's a win. We're very excited about that. And if they can make a full switch to electronic cigarettes for a short period of time, say 1 to 3 months, and then move off tobacco completely, that's the best case scenario.
Okay, and I guess it's important, as you said, burnt matter. The difference, basic, and we're going to get into some of the new dangers we're seeing with e-cigs, but the difference is the burning of the plant matter, which is a tobacco, which we've grown for years in Tennessee. It's a plant matter, so when you suck that smoke, it is carbon and other stuff. It's kind of dark smoke.
Right, it's tar. Tar is very damaging to the lungs. Carbon monoxide, what comes out of the exhaust pipe of the car. These are all very damaging, not only to the lungs, but to every organ in the body.
Okay, whereas with vaping, it's not burning a plant matter, it's a liquid that is heated, and it's a vapor. It's not a steam, but it's a vapor.
That's exactly right. It's a vapor. Many people believe that the vapor only has water and possibly nicotine. That's not the case from medical studies. From medical studies, we know that the vapor actually contains harmful substances, including heavy metals like lead, tin, arsenic, formaldehyde, cancer-causing agents. So it's not completely safe, But before this current lung scare, most doctors felt, well, it may be a safer alternative to tobacco smoke.
I would
but
say
not
less
safe.
harmful.
Less harmful, I think, is a perfect way to say it.
Less harmful. So
Yes.
I'm glad. That was my next question then. And we'll get into some of these new developments. But as it stood early on anyway, your thinking was it is a safer or less harmful alternative to cigarette smoking if you can transition from one to the other. Good for you. Then maybe eventually, though, your hope would be that they could wean themselves off of the vaping as well.
Absolutely. And I'll just interject my bias as a doctor. No tobacco product is best. So if people are thinking of quitting tobacco smoke or thinking of cutting down or thinking of cutting down or quitting vaping, there are safe and effective products on the market like nicotine patch, nicotine gum, and lozenge that have been over the counter for years that only contain clean nicotine and no other substances.
So is vaping a tobacco product?
It's considered a tobacco product by FDA now.
Okay.
Yes, and you mentioned evolution of how we think about e-cigs, and there has been an evolution of the regulation around e-cigs. They are now under the FDA.
Okay, so and again, I don't understand how all this vaping, the product is made and the cartridges. I've just been in the stores and, I look at it and they're all very nicely, fancily packaged.
Yes, they're beautifully packaged, including to children, which is another problem.
Yeah, you know what made me want to puke, frankly, is when I saw some of the testimony from some of the interviews with these makers of these products, just as you heard from cigarette companies in the past, saying, oh, we're not marketing for kids and teens. If you believe that, you're a fool. That's exactly what they're doing. They target, because here's the truth, and this is one of my favorite lines when we talk about smoking. Only an idiot starts smoking for the first time at 40. Do you run across that very often? It's the teens that get started, and then you're hooked for life. Now, there's 40-year-olds smoking, and they got hooked earlier in life. Most adults are smart enough to know not to start smoking an addictive product in their 40s or 50s. That's very rare, isn't it?
It's rare.
Yeah.
In fact, over 95% of people who smoke and who vape actually started as kids.
Yeah, of course.
But this is really important. It's not only about smarts, it's about brain development. So as humans, our brains don't fully develop until we're about 25 or maybe even a little older. And so if you think about people being addicted as children to cigarettes or to vaping, especially Juul, which is what a lot of kids are using now, they're doing so without full brain ability. They don't have the same brains yet as adults, and maybe can't make the same decisions or resist the same temptations. So we do have a lot of empathy for people who get started.
I totally agree with that. I don't have a ton of empathy for a 40-year-old that starts smoking, okay? I just don't. But yeah, for the teens, and I didn't mean that.
Life stress, there are things that happen.
Bite your fingernails, all right? But I mean, as far as, young people, you're absolutely right. And I have empathy for them, and that's why these companies target them, because once you get them hooked, think about it, you have a lifelong customer if they're addicted. Okay, and these kids, when you're young, you think you're indestructible, you're healthy, you don't think to the future where, if you keep this up, you're going to have emphysema or something. So yeah, I totally agree with you on that, and I sympathize with anyone who tries to quit. All right, so let's move on now to the e-cig, all right? We've made the comparison to cigarettes. The lung disorder, what you think about when cigarettes come along, okay, you smoke it for a sustained amount of time, it's never good, and over years especially, it can bring on all kinds of problems, cancer, lung disease, and all this. We're seeing some of these teens smoking, and just within a year, maybe even sooner, some of them suffering lung damage.
Vaping?
Yeah, vaping. I'm sorry, vaping. What do you think?
They are separate.
Yes, yes.
Well, it's obviously incredibly concerning, which is why you're dedicating time to it today, and there's been so much in the news. There are now 380 cases that the Centers for Disease Control, the CDC, has reported, either probable or definite confirmed cases. So this is really an epidemic now.
Yeah. All right. 380 cases nationwide?
Yes, over 36 states, including Tennessee. I believe there have been 10 in Tennessee and 2 at Vanderbilt at least.
Okay, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll get into what the conditions some of these individuals are suffering from. We'll take some phone calls and talk about what the possible causes are. But if you're on hold, stay there. The lines are open. Questions or comments about e-cigs and vaping right after this. Stay with us.